Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Friday the 5th of January, and what we saw yesterday in US was that we saw S&P 500 actually closing below support at 46.97. That means that it is now in a confirmed downtrend. RSI is still in a positive sentiment, but it did show divergence as we have talked about here the past few days. So there is now risk to the downside to around 4,600. It is debatable if we will actually get down there, but that at least what it tells us at the moment. If we start moving back above 46.97, sorry, it could get a little bit of relief. But for S&P 500 to resume uptrend, it needs to take out the previous peak there. Nasdaq 100 closed below its support here a couple of days ago and moved lower yesterday. The support around 16,166 is now in play, which is very close to the 61.8 retracement of the last leg up there. So that seems like it will be tested here the next couple of days. What I could see for me is that it is being tested and bouncing off from that support, and RSI is likely to bounce off from 60 threshold there. So, but let's see if that will play out, but that's at least what I see for me here the next couple of days going to next week. We had EUROSD also closing below the 44.83, bouncing a little bit in yesterday's trading. Let's see what is in store for today. It seems like we are sitting down a little bit lower here in pre-market trading. You can see here is the CFD slash future sliding a little bit lower. So a test of the 4400 seems to be in the cards. DAX still above the 16,470, but it could be tested today. We can see here the GR40 CFD slash futures is pointing a little bit lower this morning here, so look out for that support level there. The Amsterdam index was a little bit unchanged yesterday, trying to dip low, but we are still below 781. So we are a little in bearish mood here. But as you can see, RSI is still in a positive sentiment. I believe we'll see a couple of more days with a negative mood, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of a correction here at the Amsterdam future. The Belgian market is doing a little bit better than the other markets, still staying afloat above this rising trend line here. Closing on a little bit higher note yesterday, but it is still could be tested this rising trend line here. Look out for that one. CAC 40 right there. Closed just about 7,405 support, bouncing yesterday, and this morning it's setting down a little bit lower, but I think it will still stay afloat. But let's see if it does close below 7,405. Well, then there could be a potential down to 7,300 level, where we also have the 255 moving average coming up. Finally, the Swiss market that had a good day yesterday, trying to get back above the 11,245, but has failed so far. And in pre-market, we are pointing a little bit lower here, but it's still too early to call. But I think we'll see a pressure down to the 11,067 support. The FX market has been fairly muted overnight after we saw euro-dollar bouncing off the 618 retracement, actually just a little bit above. It is not unlikely we'll have another go at it and possibly dip down to the 786 retracement at 108.12. But we also have the 200 moving average. We have the 55 giving some support there. Still a little to the pressure to the downside, and I think we'll see here the next couple of days. The cable. It's a little bit slow, my correction this morning. I do apologize. We have cable also stepping sideways just around this lower rising trend line here. I still think we will see a little bit of a little bit of a pressure down, possibly to 125.83, where we also have the 255 moving average coming up, giving some support right there. Dollar yen has, on the other hand, been on the move. Currently, it's above the 144.95 resistance, with potential up to 146.60, possibly up to 147.5. So really strong move at the moment, but there's still this little about a buy down here that it could be rejected at the 60 threshold. So that's something to keep an eye on here today and going into next week. Will it actually close above or being rejected at the 60 threshold? And will dollar yen close above or below 144.95 resistance? Euro yen testing the 158.55 resistance and very close to the RSI on 60. So that's also something to look out for. That'll be key here today. Will it close above those two levels or not? If it does close above 158.55, well, then we are looking at 159.67.70, but possibly could move higher. And especially if we get the RSI to close above 60, well, then it will point to higher levels with a confirmed uptrend. Aussie yen, very close to also testing its 97.58 resistance. RSI testing the 60. If we do get a close above 60 level on the RSI, then I'm fairly certain that we will see a break above the 97.58 resistance, and a move up to 98.55 is in the cards. Finally, on the dollar index, testing the 21 moving average. This is not the strongest one, let's just be honest. I think we will see a move up to the 61.8 retracement of this last sell-off down here at 102.76. Then we have the 200 moving average, we have the 55 moving average coming down, giving some resistance, but we could still spike up to the 786 retracement at 103.42 before retracing, and I could see that scenario plays out. We still have the RSI in a negative sentiment, but that could spell very much into a scenario where it gets rejected at 60 thresholds. Moving on to gold, that has been fairly muted past couple of days. You can see here, let me zoom in a little bit. As you can see, it tested the 50% uptrend, 50% retracement of this uptrend here, now bouncing around the 38.2 at around 2040. I think we will see gold being range bound between 2030 and 2070 here for the foreseeable future. If at least going to next week, if we do see a break below 2030, well, then we're looking at 2017, which is a 61.8 retracement. It is not unlikely it will dip down to just below 2000, but I still think we will see then a bounce towards these 2050, 2070 level, but we could still be called range bound right there. On the silver front, actually dipped below yesterday at the 786 retracement, but managed to close above, and now we could actually have a little bit of a morning star, morning doji pattern here that could indicate we will see a bounce, and I do believe we'll see a bounce towards 23.50, possibly 23.80, but still in the broader picture, I think we'll be caught range bound between 22.5 and 24 here in the next few weeks. On the platinum front, still selling off, and it is not unlikely we will push down to test the lower rising trend line and the 61.8 retracement, but then I think we will see a fairly strong bounce off those levels. The uptrend here is not in jeopardy, but it could be if it starts moving below the 61.8 retracement. But we still have the RSI in a bullish sentiment, and there's no divergence, so we should see it move higher sometime later in the next couple of weeks. Copper also dipped to test the 382 and then bounced off, and I think that will be the picture here at the next couple of weeks. It will start moving higher again. On the energy front, a little bit of volatility yesterday, but still below the falling trend line, upper falling trend line on the WTI right there. I want to see it break above the upper falling trend line before I call higher levels, really. So caught a little bit range bound here between 70 and 75 possibly, but it needs to break above, and we need to have the RSI back above 60 before we can really establish an uptrend. On the Brent crude oil, touched the 61.8 retracement of this little correction there. It needs also here to break above the upper falling trend line, but as you can see, we have the 200 moving average coming there. We have the 55 that would kind of provide some overhead resistance. So not a full-blown uptrend just yet. So it will be a little bit of struggle to get up back there. Finally, on the US Treasuries, the 10-year yields. Let's see, there we have it. The 10-year yield is this morning testing once again the 4%. I think we will see a test of a minor resistance and the 200 moving average here just around 405. And if it does close above 4 or 5%, well, then there is suddenly a push to 420. There's no real strong resistance until around that level, and that is not even a very strong resistance. I would actually say if we move that one to there, well, then 410 and also levels around, let's have a look, very quick look, and then we're looking at the 382 retracement. So 405, 410 here the next couple of days, I believe. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice weekend and happy trading.